And we're bringing you live team coverage. Roxanne Elias is tracking the snow in the Sierra. John Bartell is monitoring the rain in the valley, but we check in with meteorologist Brenden Mincheff first.
Yeah, we just had a big thunderstorm roll through Sacramento. We talked yesterday about if we were going to get a little clearing in the afternoon, if we could get a little sunshine, that would give us better thunderstorm potential. And we did. We did have some sunshine earlier this afternoon, and that allowed for some storms to pop up right along the San Joaquin-Sacramento County line and then became stronger right as they moved through downtown and on the north side of Sacramento. So that was between about 4 and 4:45. Those storms now starting to lift north of Sacramento, though we still see a little bit of rain on the north side of town. But a lot of lightning, some very heavy rain out of these storms, which are now traveling up along 65. Yuba City, Marysville, going to see some of this right now. Just on the east side of 99 is seeing some of that heavier rain. But as that heavy rain moved through the north side of town, especially through the Natomas, Rio Linda area, it dropped a lot of rain. And because of that, we now have a flash flood warning in effect until 7:30 for the areas shaded in dark red. That heavy rain has caused that flash flooding, ponding on roads. There's been reports up near Arco Arena, the old Arco Arena, up in Natomas, of some water on the roads. Some of those roads are flooded out. We just see that box popping up right now. That is another flash flood warning just to our north. Hold on a second. Let me move the map up a little bit so we can get a look at that one. This one just coming in. Again, this is with that line of storms that is moving between 99 and 65 right now. This is going to be the same deal, though. Flash flooding is ongoing with these storms moving through. So avoid the flooded roads and other areas. We'll take one more quick look at that thunderstorm that's causing that flash flooding. We'll back it up here a little bit. And there it is. There's that storm. Lots of lightning. It is headed north towards Wheatland right now, up along roughly just on the east side of 70, coming up on 65. We'll talk more about this later in the show. Hey everybody, ABC 10 meteorologist Brenden Mincheff with another tsunami advisory update. There was an 8.8 magnitude earthquake off the eastern coast of Russia at about 4 o'clock this afternoon. That has generated a Pacific-wide tsunami threat. So let's take you around the map right now in just a second, but we'll talk about why this earthquake generated this tsunami. When I do want to go back to December 5th, when we think about that tsunami warning that we had off the north coast on December 5th of last year. And we were talking, I was on air on ABC 10 with Rob and Walt, and we were talking about the potential tsunami waves that were going to come into the north coast. It never quite materialized. It was a different type of earthquake that we later learned. It was one where the plates move side by side. There's no upward thrust to give the wave that initial push that it needs to generate. This earthquake, the one that just happened earlier today, the 8.8 off the coast of Russia, was different. It was a thrusting earthquake. It was a subduction zone quake. What that means is you have one plate overriding the other. This is a subducting plate. It's the one that goes underneath of the overriding plate. What can happen is these can start to get jammed up over time. And when that happens, that plate starts to bend a little bit and it builds up this tension, builds up this energy, and then it finally snaps loose. And that gives that upward thrust needed to generate the wave. So obviously this was an underwater earthquake. It was a deep earthquake. But when that plate kind of slipped, it had that upward motion, and that's what generates that tsunami wave. And it's also important to remember that tsunami waves are not one directional. They propagate out in a circle. So it's not just like the wave heads east or just heads west or north, south, whatever it may be. It heads in every direction away from the epicenter of the earthquake. That's why when we had the tsunami warning in December of last year, we talked about the potential for waves. Didn't happen. We didn't get a tsunami. And this time, there is a tsunami threat, and it is occurring right now. So we'll start with the U.S. West Coast because there's a tsunami advisory up and down the coast from the Pacific Northwest across northern California. You see Crescent City, Eureka there, Fort Bragg, Cape Mendocino, all the way down through the Bay Area, and even inland, right? Not necessarily inland areas, but on the other side of the Bay, East Bay, North Bay, South Bay, anywhere right along the immediate coastline are going to be under that tsunami advisory. This includes Monterey Bay as well, the Central Coast, and all the way down through Southern California, from Santa Barbara all the way to the international border. We're going to be looking at that tsunami advisory. Different story out in Hawaii where there's a tsunami warning, and the difference between a tsunami advisory and a tsunami warning is that with a warning, it's expected that there will be some destructive waves making it ashore. More on Hawaii in just a second, but I do want to run through the estimated arrival times for tsunami waves here in California. Fort Bragg, likely one of the first places that'll see some increased wave heights. That'll be at about 11:50 tonight. Crescent City, 11:55. Monterey, 12:15 in the morning. Port San Luis at about 12:30 in the morning. San Francisco, 12:40. Santa Barbara, 12:50. Down in Southern California, we're going to get there just after 1 o'clock in the morning. Los Angeles, 1:05. Newport Beach at 1:10. Oceanside and La Jolla at 1:15. These are not expected to be necessarily large waves, but they are going to be in addition to the normal wave heights. So we're looking at an additional 1.4-foot wave in Fort Bragg. In Crescent City, 5.5 feet. Monterey, less than a foot. Port San Luis, about 3 to 4 foot waves. San Francisco, less than a foot. Santa Barbara, this number's come up just a little bit from the previous tsunami advisory. It's now 1.3 feet in Santa Barbara. LA, Newport Beach, Oceanside, and La Jolla, all less than a foot on the estimated max wave heights. But especially up near Crescent City on the northwest coast, that's going to be the area where we're likely to see the biggest waves this evening. And again, that is not going to happen until we get closer to midnight and then just after midnight. Before we talk more about the emergency alerts, we do have some live cameras to show you. So where are we going first, Rachel, in terms of live shots here? I know we've been looking at Japan, and that is where we are headed to now. Japan, a lot closer to the epicenter of the earthquake. They've been getting the waves a lot sooner, and the waves likely to be larger in Japan than what we're going to see in Hawaii, and likely, well, certainly larger than what we're going to see here on the west coast. So again, looking at Japan right now, you can see all the water that's coming in. And we've been watching this camera over the last hour plus now, and we've seen some pretty serious waves. Estimated wave heights here over 9 feet in some places, but that's a generalization because you have to look at your local terrain influences. Depends on how the bays and the marinas are. A lot of times it gets much shallower in these bays and in these inlets. And so what happens, you get these 9-foot waves, but then they start entering shallower water and they can grow and they can really get pushed up onto shore a lot further than you might expect a 9-foot wave to do. We're going to zoom in here from the aerial footage here. I mean, look at some of these waves. These are strong, powerful waves, and it's not just one tsunami wave. I think it's easy to think of a tsunami as it's just one wave, right? One really big wave, it happens, it's done. That's not the case. With a tsunami, it's a series of high waves, a series of strong and powerful waves. And so even when we're talking about 1-foot waves or maybe 3-foot waves, like we're going to see here in Northern California later on this evening, those can still be strong. Don't let the fact that they're relatively small fool you, because remember, these waves are generated by an 8.8 magnitude earthquake. So there's a lot of power behind them, and it's a series of waves that can last for many hours. For Northern California specifically, especially on the north coast, we could be looking at tsunami waves for anywhere between 9 and 36 hours from when they start later on tonight. It's hard to see. This is the smoke from the 2.7 fire. What you see back here are actually clouds, not necessarily smoke, but the smoke is lower. That's the haze that you see in front of the camera here. That's smoke from the 2.7 fire. Because of this camera, I'll zoom in to the map here a little bit. This camera's a little bit up this direction, just kind of near the bend of Highway 4. So the camera's a little bit up in here, and it's looking towards kind of down through Murphy's into the fire itself, into the smoke from the fire. So we're not looking at flames. The area that you see is not the area that's on fire, but we can see the smoke from it. There's not necessarily a closer Alert California wildfire camera here closer to the fire that we can utilize. So this is about as good as it is going to get right now in terms of our view of what's going on. But again, you can see the perimeter here of the fire. It is on the north. I'll step into the light a little bit here. It's on the northwest side of Highway 4, just to the north of Vallecito, and it's moving up towards Murphy's. So if you are in Murphy's, you are, as Alex has been talking about, under either an evacuation order or an evacuation warning. An order means you need to leave leave now. There's an imminent threat to life and property. If there is a warning, that means you need to think about leaving. You're not being told to leave, but you're being told that if you feel unsafe, now is a good time to go ahead and go. So hopefully you got those go bags. You're ready to go. If you're on the south side of Murphy's, that is an evacuation order. You are being told to leave. The fire is headed that direction. Let's talk about the incoming storm next week. On Wednesday, these models had this storm coming in roughly along Interstate 80. That was giving us an early arrival with the most snow. But by yesterday, things changed. It kept that system offshore, bringing it in later, giving us less snow but more rain in the valley. Well, today, the models have kind of split the difference. We're looking at now a midday arrival on Monday with inches of snow in the high country and a nice soaking of rain in the valley. So let's look at futurecast now. As we head through the overnight period, some showers across the northern Sierra. That'll be it. Sunny on Saturday, some clouds building in on Sunday, but a nice weekend all around. Monday morning's commute wet out in the Bay Area, but mostly dry in the valley. By Monday evening, though, things are a lot wetter. Snow starts to pick up later on Monday, and that continues into Tuesday. Tuesday will be a fairly soggy day, likely across northern California with snow in the high country. So we do have a weather impact alert beginning on Monday, continuing through Tuesday, and we could extend that into Wednesday. We're going to keep an eye on this because this is a pretty impactful early season, very early season winter storm coming to northern California.